Yo, what is up guys? We are back with more stuff. Now, our camera angle is significantly different than usual, and that is because today I'm going to be showing you how to take apart an Xbox controller, specifically the Xbox 360 controller, but I assume that for an Xbox One controller, the steps would be similar. Now you are gonna need, if you're taking apart a original Xbox 360 controller, like an official Xbox 360 controller, you will need a special tool for this, which is the one that I have here. And this, I don't know if you can see it, if the camera will focus, you might be able to see it, but it has a little hole in the end. And this tool, if you want to find one of these, it's called a T10 Torx security pin screwdriver. And the difference between a T10 Torx and a T10 Torx security pin is that there's a little hollow point in the top here, and that's because the security pin screws that we're going to be removing have a little pin in the center to prevent you from using a regular screwdriver. So you will need a special screwdriver if you're taking apart an official Xbox 360 controller. Now, if you're taking apart a third-party controller, most of the third-party controllers have Phillips screws. So, if you're taking apart a third party, you most likely won't need one of these. You most likely can just use a Phillips. But anyway, this controller, I actually have the chat pad on, so I'm going to remove that. It just pulls off. And this controller, I custom built myself. You can see the backing here is all clear. The top is like a chrome purple. A red button here and some bullet shell buttons, and then these are just little pads that I put on the thumbsticks. So the first thing you're gonna want to do, if you have pads on the thumbsticks, you're gonna want to remove them. If you don't, then you don't have to worry about that. First thing you're gonna want to do is take off the battery pack, and you don't see it on here because this casing doesn't have one. But on an actual Xbox 360 pack, there's going to be a sticker right here underneath the battery pack. And you're going to want to take your screwdriver, and in the center of that sticker, you're just going to want to scrape away, because they hide a screw underneath those stickers. If you try to take it apart without getting to that hidden screw, you're going to break it. So that's the thing you should do first. Once you've revealed that screw, you can start taking out the screws. You're going to have one here, 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 and here. So we can just go ahead and start removing those. Just like so. And what I like to do is, for the ones that are deep in the sockets here, I like to just do all of those at once, and then just kind of flip the controller over and tap them out. So like these that are on the top here, I'm just going to remove those as is. So there we go. So those are removed, those three. And then the ones that are in the sockets, I will loosen all these up. This is what I normally do. I loosen these up. And once they're all the way out, if you keep spinning, you'll feel like a little clicking there. That means that the screw's all the way out. So then you can move on to the next one. Like so. There we go. And this is really good if you want to mod controllers, or if you just want to put custom buttons and casings like I did here. It's just good stuff to know. So there you go. You remove that. And then this last one here. Alright, and then what I like to do is I flip it over and just kind of give it a little shake. And they all should come out. Let's see, is that all of them? Yep, they're all out now. Alright, so all your screws are right here. And they're really tiny screws, so you want to make sure you don't lose them. The easiest way to do that is to take out one of your batteries out of your battery pack and just kind of throw the screws in there for now. That way, if you don't have any sort of container to put them in handy, you can just throw them in there for now, and they'll be all together and you won't lose them. So now, you're going to want to pull both triggers down and just kind of pry this upwards, and that should just come off just like that. So now you have the backing off, so the next thing you're going to want to do is these here are your rumble packs. That's what makes the whole thing vibrate. You're going to want to carefully, you could do this with a pair of tweezers, but I usually just do it by hand. You're going to want to, as you can see here, they're not actually soldered to the board, they're just in these little connectors. So you want to take your hand and just kind of pinch the connector and just gently wiggle it out side to side until it pops out like that. And then once it's out, you can just pull this entire pack out like so. See, there's the pack there. And you can set that aside. And you're going to want to do the same thing for the other one. Let's see. There we go. And pull that out. There he is. And there you go. So now you have the packs out. Now you can actually just take this entire board and lift it right on out. You could have done that with the packs still on, but doing it with the packs still on, you risk damaging the wiring or the headers, and you don't want to do that. So now that that's done, you can see here is your entire board here. And if you like, you can pull these thumbsticks off and replace them with some aftermarket ones if you want, or whatever. Technically, all of these come off too. You just kind of pull them over and then lift them out. I'm not actually going to do that just because they're a pain in the ass to put back together and stuff, but you actually can pull these out. But anyway, now that we've gotten a look at this, now that we've gotten the main board out, we can now look at what's left. You have these little contact pieces here, and that's what actually makes contact with the board whenever you press one of the buttons to let the board know, hey, this button has been pressed. I don't have 100% understanding how it works. You can see the contact points here. But my assumption of how it works is that these little pads on the inside, these little black pads, connect with the board once you press down the button. And I assume what's happening is it completes a circuit whenever it's being touched, and that's what tells the board that the button is being pressed. Now, I don't know if that's accurate, but that's my assumption of how the buttons work. So then you can just pull this off as well, and you just have another piece there. And all these shoulder buttons pop out as well. You can just lift those out like so. I'm actually going to leave those in. Let's see. There we go. Click that back in there. And then all this stuff just kind of comes out. So these little buttons you can pull out, and each button has little tabs on them, so they will only fit in whatever spot they're supposed to be in. Um, so like there's your button there. Um, and then for the D-pad, if you want to get the D-pad out, you actually will need a Phillips for that, a Phillips screwdriver to take out those two screws, and then it'll just pop out the front. I don't actually have a Phillips small enough on hand to do that, but there are two screws in there. There should be one here and the other one there. You can see one of them. Is there only one? No, there definitely is two. I don't know why the other one's not showing up on camera. But there you go. So, and then this at the bottom, if you want to remove this trim, it just pops out. But there you go. So that's how you dismantle the controller. And putting it back together is pretty much the exact same, just in the opposite order. So you want to line up these little pieces here. They actually have two little holes right here that line up with the home button to make it a bit easier, to make sure it all stays down. When you're laying this piece here back on, you want to make sure that this little tab there lines up with this screw hole right here. If it doesn't line up with that screw hole, it's not going to work. So you want to put that back in so it all lines up. And then you can just gently lie the board back in. And I don't actually have my... Actually, I forgot, you want to put the thumbsticks on before you lie it in. Alright, so put the thumbsticks on. They will only fit on a specific way, so you make sure you match the shape up properly. And then you lie the board in, just like so. Make sure you align it in there. And you just want to, at this point, just click the shoulder buttons and just make sure that you get a nice little click there. Because if you're not getting a click there, you're not lined up with the buttons for the shoulder buttons, which is a problem. So if you're not getting a little click there, your board is not in line properly. And you can also kind of check the buttons. Now, I do recommend at this point in the reconstruction that you take your battery pack, you put a battery back in it, take the screws out. Or if you have a separate battery pack, you can test it with a separate one. Or if you have one of these little plugs, you can test it with just one of these plugs. You're going to want to add power to the board. And you're going to want to hit the home button, load up your Xbox, and just make sure that all the buttons are acting properly. Now, you're going to want to do this with the controller face down the entire time, because if you flip it the other way around, everything's going to fall out. You don't necessarily have to do that step. Like, I'm not doing it right now, because I'm certain that I've done everything correctly. But if you're not certain, you know, it can save you some time to check that before you put everything back together. So I am certain of my abilities to put everything properly. Now, the rumble packs, the interesting thing about these is that they actually, one of them is smaller than the other. I'm not exactly sure why the reason is for that, but it doesn't really matter which socket you plug them into. But if you want to make things properly, or how it was out of the box, the bigger rumble pack will go on the right. Again, I'm not really sure why one's bigger than the other. Maybe they did that to save money, or maybe it has something to do with balancing, or I don't know. I don't know. It's a strange design for them to do that. But Honestly, it really doesn't matter which one you plug it in, but if you want to do it as it was out of the box, the bigger one goes on the right. Um, that being said, once those are laid back in, then you want to take your backing, and again, you want to just kind of press, you want to first line it up. There's going to be two little grooves there, and you're going to want to make sure that these little metal coils, which go to your batteries, line up with those grooves. Once you have them lined up and slotted in, you're going to want to press both trigger buttons and just drop the casing over the trigger buttons as you let go, so that everything lines up properly. And once you have everything lined up, then it's just as simple as putting the screws back in. So you want to dump your screws out of the battery pack that we set aside, and you just line up these screws and you just put it back together. And that's pretty much all you really need to know as far as being able to take apart one of these controllers. It's very simple once you have the proper tools to do it. Again, if you're taking apart an official Xbox controller, you're going to want to use a T10 Torx security pin screwdriver. If you're taking apart a third-party controller, they most likely will have a Phillips head, which is the one that looks like a little plus sign, in case you don't know what a Phillips is. And if it doesn't use a Phillips head, then just check what it uses and match up the shapes. But, yeah, most of the third-party stuff uses Phillips heads, and the official Xbox controllers use T10 security Torx screwdrivers. So you just want to pop all these little screws back in. And when you're putting the screws back in, you don't want to do them too tight. You just want to kind of do them enough that, just do it until you can't really turn it anymore easily. Like, I can turn this more if I wanted to, but it's not easy to turn at that point, so I'm just going to leave it. And the reason why you don't want to do them too tight is you could possibly break or crack the plastic covering, and if you really went crazy with the tightening of the screws, you could potentially bend or damage the board itself, although you would really have to overdo it in order to do that. So once all your screws are back in, like so, you just want to take your battery pack, make sure you got your batteries back in, like that, pop it in, and you are good to go, except I actually have to put my little covers back on. If you don't have these, you don't have to worry about them. I don't really have to explain how they work, they just kind of pop on the top there. And that's about it. So that is how you fully dismantle and put back together an Xbox 360 controller. This is really good to know if you are modding controllers, and this is really good to know if you just want to put alternative shells or colors on them, like I have done here. But yeah, so that's pretty much all you need to know. And yep, still power's on. Everything feels alright. And there you go. So that is all you really need to know. So hopefully this was helpful for someone. Yeah, so that's about it. So thank all you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to become one of the ground babies. And I'll see all you guys next time. Goodbye, guys.